3 massive leaks, $32 trillion hidden, and not a single person went to prison. In April 2016, the world woke up to the biggest data leak in history. 11.5 million files from a single law firm in Panama exposed how presidents, prime ministers, billionaires, and celebrities had been hiding their money in offshore shell companies for decades. The leak was called the Panama Papers, and it should have changed everything. 2 more massive leaks followed: the Paradise Papers in 2017 and the Pandora Papers in 2021. Together, they exposed over 36 million documents from dozens of offshore firms, revealing a shadow financial system worth an estimated $32 trillion. That's more than the GDP of the United States and China combined. World leaders resigned. Law firms shut down. Journalists won Pulitzer Prizes. But here's what didn't happen. Nobody went to prison. Not the billionaires hiding their fortunes. Not the politicians writing tax laws they personally exploited. Not the lawyers and accountants who built the system. This is the story of 3 leaks that exposed the greatest financial scandal in modern history, and why the people at the center of it all walked away untouched. The Panama Papers story begins with a single anonymous message. In early 2015, an unknown source contacted a journalist at the German newspaper Süddeutsche Zeitung with a simple offer. "Hello, this is John Doe. Interested in data?" Over the following months, the source handed over 11.5 million files from Mossack Fonseca, a law firm based in Panama City that specialized in creating offshore shell companies. The files spanned 40 years of activity and exposed 214,488 offshore entities connected to people in more than 200 countries and territories. When the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists published the findings on April 3, 2016, the scale was staggering. 12 current or former world leaders were directly named. 128 other politicians and public officials appeared in the files. More than 29,000 accounts linked to Chinese nationals alone. The documents showed how the global elite used Panama-based shell companies to hide assets, avoid taxes, and in some cases launder money. The firm charged as little as $1,000 to create a company that could hold millions in untraceable assets. And for decades, nobody outside the firm knew. The names in the Panama Papers read like a who's who of global power. Iceland's Prime Minister, Sigmundur Gunnlaugsson, owned an offshore company with his wife that held millions in claims on failed Icelandic banks. He had never disclosed this while voting on policies affecting those same banks. Within days of the leak, 10% of Iceland's entire population gathered outside Parliament demanding his resignation. He stepped down on April 5, 2016, just 2 days after publication. Pakistan's Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif and his family were linked to offshore companies that owned luxury apartments on Park Lane in London worth approximately $13 million. The Pakistani Supreme Court disqualified him from office in July 2017. Ukraine's President Petro Poroshenko, who had promised to sell his chocolate company when he took office, was shown to have secretly moved it into a shell company in the British Virgin Islands instead. Russia's inner circle featured prominently. Close associates of President Vladimir Putin had moved approximately $2 billion through offshore accounts, including a cellist named Sergei Rolgin, who was personally linked to $100 million in offshore transactions. And then there was football. Lionel Messi was named. So was the president of FIFA's Ethics Committee. The irony was not lost on the public. Just 18 months later, it happened again. In November 2017, the ICIJ published the Paradise Papers. This time, the source was 13.4 million files from Appleby, a prestigious offshore law firm based in Bermuda, along with records from Asiatic Trust in Singapore and 19 corporate registries in tax havens around the world. If the Panama Papers exposed the back alleys of offshore finance, the Paradise Papers exposed the main street. These weren't shadowy firms in Panama. This was Appleby, one of the most respected offshore law firms in the world, with offices in the Cayman Islands, British Virgin Islands, Isle of Man, and Jersey. Their clients were the most powerful corporations and individuals on the planet. Queen Elizabeth II's private estate had invested approximately $13 million in offshore funds, including one that profited from a rent-to-own retailer accused of exploiting vulnerable customers. Apple had restructured its tax arrangements, moving its offshore profit center from Ireland to Jersey after the European Union challenged its Irish tax deal. The company held $252 billion offshore. Nike routed profits through a Dutch subsidiary that paid almost no tax. Uber used a shell company in Bermuda to minimize its global tax burden. U2 frontman Bono owned a share of a Lithuanian shopping center through a Maltese company. The Pandora Papers, published in October 2021, were the most explosive leak yet. This time, the ICIJ obtained 11.9 million files from 14 different offshore service providers, not just one. The investigation involved more than 600 journalists in 117 countries. It was the largest collaboration in journalism history, and this time, the focus shifted from corporations to the people who run countries. 35 current or former world leaders were named. Jordan's King Abdullah II had used shell companies to purchase 36 properties worth more than $100 million in the United States and United Kingdom, including homes in Malibu, Washington, D.C., and London. The purchases were made while Jordan received billions in foreign aid. Czech Republic Prime Minister Andrej Babiš used an offshore investment company to purchase a $22 million chateau in the south of France. He failed to disclose the transaction. Kenya's President Uhuru Kenyatta and his family secretly held assets worth more than $30 million offshore. Azerbaijan's ruling Aliyev family controlled properties worth more than $500 million in London real estate through a network of shell companies. And perhaps most controversially in the UK, former Prime Minister Tony Blair and his wife saved approximately £312,000 in stamp duty by purchasing a London office building through an offshore company based in the British Virgin Islands. Technically legal, morally questionable, politically devastating. Let's talk about the number that ties all of this together: $32 trillion. That estimate comes from the Tax Justice Network, one of the most cited research organizations studying offshore finance. Their methodology combines data from the Bank for International Settlements, the International Monetary Fund, and the World Bank to estimate total private financial wealth held in offshore jurisdictions. Other researchers have produced similar figures. Economist Gabriel Zuckman, a professor at the University of California, Berkeley, and one of the leading authorities on tax havens, estimates that approximately 10% of global GDP sits in offshore accounts. His 2015 book, The Hidden Wealth of Nations, put the figure at around $7.6 trillion in financial assets alone, but noted this was likely a lower bound that excluded real estate, art, gold, and other non-financial assets held offshore. The Tax Justice Network's broader estimate of $21 to $32 trillion includes these categories. For context, $32 trillion is roughly equal to the GDP of the United States and Japan combined. The annual tax revenue loss to offshore tax avoidance is estimated at $427 billion globally. The United States alone loses approximately $60 billion per year. That's enough to fund 2 million teachers' salaries every single year. This is the part of the story that makes people furious. Despite 3 massive leaks exposing the finances of hundreds of world leaders and thousands of wealthy individuals, criminal prosecutions have been almost non-existent. There are several reasons for this. First, most of what the leaks exposed was technically legal. Creating an offshore shell company is not a crime. Holding money in another country is not a crime. Even using complex structures to minimize your tax bill is, in most jurisdictions, completely legal. The line between tax avoidance, which is legal, and tax evasion, which is criminal, is deliberately blurred. And the people who can afford $1,000. And our lawyers know exactly where that line is. Second, the people who could change the laws are often the same people using the system. When the Pandora Papers named 35 world leaders, it became clear that the offshore system isn't a bug in global governance. It's a feature. Politicians write the tax codes. Their donors benefit from the loopholes. and the cycle continues. Third, international jurisdiction makes prosecution nearly impossible. A British citizen who uses a law firm in Panama to create a company in the British Virgin Islands that holds a bank account in Switzerland has technically complied with the laws of all 4 countries. No single prosecutor has jurisdiction over the entire chain. Behind every hidden fortune is an army of enablers: law firms, accountants, banks, and corporate service providers who build and maintain the offshore system. Mossack Fonseca was just one firm. At its peak, it had offices in more than 40 countries and had created over 300,000 shell companies. After the Panama Papers, the firm shut down in March 2018, citing reputational damage and an inability to operate. Its co-founders, Jürgen Mossack and Ramon Fonseca, were charged with money laundering in Panama in 2017. The trial dragged on for years. In April 2024, a Panamanian court acquitted all 28 defendants, including both founders. Ramon Fonseca had already died in May 2024. The case against Appleby, the firm at the center of the Paradise Papers, was even more anticlimactic. No charges were filed. The firm issued a statement saying it had always operated within the law and that any media reporting suggesting otherwise was inaccurate. The Big Four accounting firms, Deloitte, PricewaterhouseCoopers, Ernst & Young, and KPMG, also appeared repeatedly in the leaks. These firms simultaneously advise governments on tax policy while helping their corporate clients minimize tax payments. The EU Tax Observatory found that multinational corporations shift approximately $1 trillion in profits to tax havens each year, facilitated primarily by these same accounting firms. Despite the lack of criminal convictions, the leaks did produce some changes. Countries recovered tax revenue. Germany alone recovered more than 180 million euros from investigations triggered by the Panama Papers. The UK, Australia, and other countries launched similar recovery efforts. Several countries strengthened their beneficial ownership registries, requiring companies to disclose their actual human owners rather than hiding behind nominee directors. The European Union blacklisted several tax havens, though critics noted the list excluded major facilitators like the Netherlands, Luxembourg, and Ireland. The OECD launched its Automatic Exchange of Financial Information program, requiring participating countries to share bank account data across borders. By 2023, more than 100 countries had joined, and journalism was permanently changed. The Iceland's collaborative model, with hundreds of reporters sharing data across borders, became the template for investigating global financial crime. The Panama Papers won the Pulitzer Prize for explanatory reporting in 2017. But the fundamental architecture of offshore finance remains intact. Shell companies are still easy to create. Tax havens still compete for foreign capital. And the wealthiest individuals on Earth still pay a lower effective tax rate than their employees. The journalist who coordinated the Panama Papers investigation, Gerard Ryle, put it simply: offshore is not going away. If anything, the system has gotten bigger. Here's what the Panama Papers, Paradise Papers, and Pandora Papers really tell us. The offshore system isn't a scandal. It's a business model. It's a $32 trillion industry built on secrecy, jurisdictional arbitrage, and the fundamental asymmetry between global capital and national tax codes. Money moves across borders instantly. Tax enforcement stops at national boundaries. And the people with the most money can afford the best advisors to exploit the gap. The leaks didn't create this problem. They just made it visible. And the uncomfortable truth is that the system survived 3 of the biggest data leaks in history without any fundamental reform. That's not an accident. That's a feature. If this story surprised you, you're not alone. Most people don't realize how the offshore system actually works. On this channel, we break down the tax strategies, loopholes, and financial systems that shape the global economy. If you found this valuable, subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss the next one. We'll see you in the next video.